So let's take a look at this Optima M10. When I first looked at the Optima M12, I was not yet familiar with the M10 model. I thought it was the twin of the Olympia M8, but when I bought this one I realized that it was a completely different model. As well as that, in fact, the M10 model was the founder of the entire product line until the 80s, not the M12 model. Here, for the first time, the iconic chassis appears, which remains with the Robotron 24 more than 30 years later. I call this machine the little tank, maybe because of the worn green paint, but also in comparison to the M12. Here the carriage is strictly for vertical A4 page and not a centimeter more, which is actually a bit strange and somehow reminds me that the model is a premiere for the M series. Why make a massive typewriter that does not have at least the ability to fit a horizontal A4 page? The exterior design is distinguished by its completely flat walls, unlike the M12 and Ideal 10, for example, which clearly rely on rounded shapes, which also makes the M10 look smaller than them. In this, it also resembles its direct peer, Optima Elite 2. It can be seen that it resembles it by the typical keyboard with round keys, also known from the Olympia Progress and M8. Excluding the differences in the external design, the differences compared to M12 and the rest of the line of successors are completely absent. The same chassis, the same mechanisms, but unlike the three M12s that I have worked with here, the keyboard is harder, more similar to that on the Elite 2 and Olympia Progress, which was then changed in the Optima Elite 3 and M12. However, the stability of the M10 on a desk is unmistakable. The functions are also fully consistent with those of the M12, the familiar levers for paper release, gear release, tap retract and carriage release buttons on both the left and right, as remained until the early M16 and then repeated again in Darrow Optima M16. The large lever is supposed to fold down similar to the M12, M14, M16, Darrow Optima M16, Darrow 20, Robotron 20 and Robotron 24 models, but this one has been repaired and it's not in its original condition. It appears that there was a metal guard on this upper bar, similar to the M12 and other successors and almost every other brand of non-portable mechanical or electric typewriters, but in fact there is none here. Instead, there is this interesting presser, more like a separator on both sides of the sheet. Speaking of the sheet, where is the paper support? It is separate and removable, similar to what I have on the brown Elite 2 Optima. It is removable because it cannot be folded and remains in the center of the carriage with this such small size of the carriage, fitting only A3 vertical page. On the front, the familiar 10 taps, the plus and minus keys, the color selection key and the double space bar on the far left. The only thing missing here are and added to the M12 later is the keyboard locking locker that presses the link cage like the following generations. Down here you can see the typical 4 bolts for separating the body from the chassis, which were later hidden under the feet. And finally, probably the most distinctive and impressive thing about the M10 model. Of course, the back and the large inscription. I think that is all I can say about this machine. I like it, it's charming, it's in its own special way, and it's extremely comfortable. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see you again next week.